we can talk about AI being a bubble, most AI companies being way overvalued, most having no function whatsoever, and most things that AI is being injected into not really adding anything to the product. In many cases, actually just making it more annoying to use. Is there any benefit to the consumer to have an AI drive-through at a fast food place? No, it's probably going to be even worse than the people working there. But the AI tooling we have now, whilst it's going to go through some changes like we saw with the dot-com bubble, it's not going away. And you're going to have to learn to deal with it. Now, when it comes to open source projects, there is a mixed bag of how this is being handled. Some projects allow the use of it as long as you understand the code. Some projects are just vibes all the way down, and other projects explicitly ban the use of this tooling. Pretend as you might, the tools are getting better. And if you do take this route of banning or limiting the use of these tools, and a new contributor comes along where you don't really know how they do things, there's going to come a point very soon where you're not able to discern the difference. And if you actually do have a problem with the use of this tooling, you need a way to know what is going on with this contributor. Now, I don't agree with some of the approaches being taken here, but there are some developers who have taken it upon themselves to just try something, experiment with some new but kind of old approaches to try and sort of navigate this world and know that when someone is contributing to your project, they're doing so in good faith. Recently, two very similar projects popped up, and it's two of them because the first one I'm going to show you is actually inspired by the second one. I'm going to do it in this order because the second one is the main one that people are talking about. The first project is Good Egg, trust scoring for GitHub PR authors using graph-based ranking on contribution graphs. Even though not many people have been talking about this one, I mentioned it because Daniel Stenberg, the creator of curl, did make a brief post about it. Interesting take for a kind of reputation on GitHub. I think it misses taking ban status into account. AI bots that merge stuff into their own repos get a good track record and can probably fool this system, but when maintainers start to block them, that should gradually become a rather strong signal it's being a bad egg. The core insight is that good open source contributors are already exhibiting good behavior across the ecosystem. They have merged PRs in established projects, sustained contributions over time, and worked across multiple repositories. This existing track record is a good signal. Good Egg is automated, data-driven, and complements rather than replaces human review. It answers one specific question. Is this person an established contributor? A major concern I have with this one is the same problem that exists with Hacktober. So every time October rolls around, especially in the past when they actually gave away merch, major projects would get spammed with garbage pull requests because people wanted to get the shirt, they wanted to get whatever the item was, and if you got something merged into a big repo, then you were going to get an item. This, I think, does sort of encourage more of that behavior, even though it is going to have a lot of people marked as bad contributors, as bad eggs in this case. That doesn't change the fact that people are going to be trying to interact with this system. And there are a lot of people on the internet, and there are regions that are just coming online that are going to be interacting with this system, and this is not a problem that's going to slow down anytime soon. Now, as I said before, this is directly inspired by another system, which is also mentioned in their documentation, Mitchell Hashimoto's vouch system. If that name sounds familiar, it should, because this is the developer of Ghosty, a community trust management system based on explicit vouchers to participate. Vouchers, I know my accent's weird, vouchers as in people have vouched for you, not vouchers as in you have a voucher that gives you a discount for something. Yeah. Apologies for being Australian. People must be vouched for before interacting with certain parts of the project. The exact parts are configurable to the project to enforce. People can also be explicitly denounced to block them from interacting with the project. When we get into some of the discussions about this, this part's very important. Vouch lists can also form a web of trust. You can configure Vouch to read other projects' list of vouched or denounced users. This way, projects with shared values can share their trust decisions with each other and create a larger, more comprehensive web of trust across the ecosystem. Users already proven to be trustworthy in one project can automatically be assumed trustworthy in another project, and so on. All of this, if the gears are turning in your head, you can probably see how this can go badly. This is an experimental system and is actually being used by Ghosty, and a few other projects, I believe, are experimenting with it, but Ghosty is the most notable. Open source has always worked on a system of trust and verify. Historically, the effort required to understand a codebase, implement a change, and submit that change for review was high enough that it naturally filtered out many low-quality contributions from unqualified people. This is actually, I guess, part of the reason why the Linux kernel still uses a mailing list, because if it's on GitHub and you accept patches through GitHub, GitHub's easy to use. Having to jump through the hoop of using a mailing list, which you probably have never interacted with, does filter out the majority of people. Some things slip through, but nowhere near as many. For over 20 years of my life, this was enough for my projects, as well as enough for most others. Unfortunately, the landscape has changed, particularly with the advent of AI tools that allow people to trivially create plausible-looking, but extremely low-quality contributions with little to no true understanding. Contributors can no longer be trusted based on the minimal barrier to entry to simply submit a change. But open source still works on trust, and every project has a definite group of trusted individuals, maintainers, and a larger group of probably trusted individuals, active members of the community in any form. So let's move to an explicit trust model where trusted individuals can vouch for others, and those vouched individuals can then contribute. As for who is and is not vouched for, that is totally up to the individual projects and then the projects they decide to collaborate with. So let's say there is Ghosty and there's some other terminal that has a similar sort of criteria of what they're looking for. They can borrow that list from Ghosty and Ghosty can borrow the list from them and create this trust framework that both projects agree on. Whereas there's this other project over here that wants nothing to do with that. Maybe they accept AI contributions, but only from people that actually understand the code they're contributing. They can do their thing over there, and then other projects that are like them can all collaborate together. This project got posted in many places, but over on Reddit there was quite a bit of discussion. Infinite drama generator. I think it's a solid idea though. We'll see how it goes, I guess. What about people who haven't contributed and want to start? They would have to start small until people vouch for them, I'm guessing. I hate it. As a maintainer for several projects, it is already hard to find contributors. I will definitely not be using this. This sounds kind of crazy because someone can just be bullied out of the vouching system. I will never contribute to a project ever again because I usually just do small drive-by changes and ain't got no time to get vouched or whatever. This, I think, is the real concern. Because whilst the intention can be to use it for AI contributions, I know what people do when you give them a tool for creating mass block lists. They create mass block lists. Now, some of those lists might be valid. There's probably a bunch of accounts out there that are contributing AI slop garbage. Totally fair, get rid of those. But we all know how it can be used in other ways as well. So basically, you can only contribute to open source if you have connections in open source. I guess forking is still an option if you want to, say, fix a bug that's annoying you or add a feature you want. I don't know, as someone who's been trying to break into tech for a while but failing due to, among other things, lack of connections, seeing open source go that route as well is disheartening. I wrote a driver for the Linux kernel, and after a short review, Greg Kroll-Hartman accepted it without any further credentials but the code itself. It's on your machine right now. I hardly participate in any community projects, too much drama. Almost all the other free software that I wrote from scratch as well. So it's an incredibly stupid idea. It replaces the quality of your work by your ability to direct a mob. If used responsibly, it could be a solution to the purported problem. That said, This system floats on people, and we all know how trustworthy these critters are. Vouchers and denouncers made for reasons other than technical merits. Negative consequences spreading for some like an oil stain just because a vouch has a personal axe to grind. Basically the equivalent of high school clicks. As a strict user, it won't affect me, but I'll sure get some popcorn to watch it all go down. I'm not the only person bringing up the fact here that people love to create these like clicky little block lists, mass block lists, all of this stuff. This is a reasonable concern that I think everyone should bring up. Now, over on Twitter, Mitchell has tried to address some of these concerns in a longer post. Junior and first-time contributors can't get in. There's no reason for getting Vouch to be difficult. The primary thing Vouch prevents is low-effort drive-by contributions. For my projects, even this one, you can get Vouch by simply introducing yourself in an issue and describing how you'd like to contribute. Now, I don't necessarily think drive-by contributions are the problem. I can see the low-effort ones, but if you're someone who just wants to make a fix to a project and you don't really care to, like, get involved in any community, I do see this being a way to stop people, like the person I saw in here that said they made, like, a kernel driver. For a person like this, that's already enough of a barrier where they're just going to go do something else if it's not that important to them. And for them, they contributed good code. I understand the sort of the goal here, but I can see this getting in the way of people that have no interest in open source community stuff. Social engineering will break this. Vouch users merely gain the power to even interact with the project. They don't gain permission to merge pull requests, push code, make releases, etc. All of those will be gated by existing review and system controls. Additionally, only admin/collabs can even vouch users, so a bad vouch user can't vouch other users. However, a bad admin can start denouncing people that they have personal issues with that may not even be remotely related to a project. Maybe you had, like, a fight with one of their friends or something like that. That is an area where it can be exploited. Granted, that can already happen now. So, is that any worse? You might argue no. I would say if you're sharing around block lists, it certainly can be. It's not inherently worse, though. Denouncing has no appeals process. That's up to downstream projects. For mine, just reach out to us via any mechanism, Discord, email, etc., and talk to us like a human. Recognize any mistakes, and we'll give you another shot, no big deal. The whole point of this project is to have minimal barriers, since AI primarily will just throw some dog shit at people's doorsteps via an API call, reducing the previous natural occurring barriers. For projects that are human communities, I just want human interaction at the boundaries, that's all. I don't think what he is doing here has bad intentions. But I do see very quickly how a system like this can go badly. And not just can go badly, but has gone badly with a system that is actually very similar to this from the past. There was a project called Advogato. Here is the Wikipedia page as it is shut down, and this is good enough. This had a bunch of high-profile free software and open source members like Richard M. Stallman, Eric Raymond, Alan Cox, Bruce Perens, Jamie Zawinski, and I'm sure it had a bunch of other people as well. Basically what this was a system to peer review and verify other contributors working on open source. It allowed you to say if this person is a good contributor, a bad contributor, they're submitting slop, all of this stuff that is basically being done by what Mitchell Hashimoto has with Vouch here. And in many ways, this system is inspired by Advogato. Now, hopefully, it doesn't have the same, gaming of the system that happened with that one as well. From 2007, Advogato has failed. Basically what happened is there was a member who was sort of gaming the system. There were these fake projects being spun up to verify other people. There were people doing these like verification for verification. So even though everybody here was kind of fake, you had these people that were like creating this web of fake trust where it seemed like they were legitimate people. This one was a little bit different because from my understanding, this was sort of a centralized verification system. So if you started gaming it on that centralized system, then that would apply to everything. With Vouch, this is more of a distributed system where projects that agree with each other's values can sort of vouch amongst themselves, but this same sort of situation can still happen to a smaller scale, especially in cases where you have, let's say, admins that are willing to take bribes, that are willing to like play these little shadow games behind the scenes. That can still very well happen. It's not as exploitable, but there's certainly still a little bit of room for some shenanigans here. I am really curious to see how Vouch actually plays out, because I can sit here all day and tell you ways that you can break this, and tell you ways that this can go very, very wrong. But it is an attempt to actually resolve the problem of AI slop contributions. I'm not going to fault someone for trying to solve the problem. But what do you think? Do you think this is going to go well? Do you see how this can be exploited? Do you even think there is a problem to solve to begin with? I'd love to know. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you liked the video, go like the video. Go subscribe as well. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon subscribers daily bearer pay linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and what if I'm an AI?